there. If you're planning a Hawaii trip right now in January, you're probably asking yourself, when should I actually book my flight? And I get it, because the advice out there is all over the place. Some people say book a year out, others say wait for last-minute deals. So what's the actual answer? Here's the thing. Hawaii flights don't follow the same patterns as other domestic travel. If you're flying to Austin or Chicago, sure, that 30 to 40 days out window might work great. But Hawaii? Different story entirely. The booking window that tends to work best for most people is around 45 to 75 days before your trip. That's roughly 2 to 3 months out. Why that window? Because it's after the airlines have released their inventory, but before prices start climbing as seats fill up. Now, this isn't a hard rule. Flights from the West Coast, especially on competitive routes like Los Angeles or San Francisco to any island, sometimes have good prices showing up even earlier. But here's where it gets tricky. If you're traveling during peak season, and that means summer, Christmas, spring break, really any school holiday, waiting for that perfect window can backfire. I've heard from so many people who waited and then watched prices double in a matter of days. One listener told me she waited for the 60-day mark for a summer flight from Seattle to Kauai, and the price nearly doubled. Another family missed the direct flight window entirely and ended up routing through Phoenix with an overnight layover. So peak season travel? Start looking earlier, like 90 days out, maybe even longer. The goal isn't just finding a cheap flight, though obviously that matters. The bigger issue is that late bookings trap you. You pay more for the flight, but you're also stuck competing for hotels and vacation rentals during the most expensive booking window. Rental cars get scarce. Your preferred accommodation might already be booked for part of your trip, forcing you to split between multiple places. It cascades. Now, if you're flying off-peak, and that's generally late January through early March, September, October, early November, you've got more flexibility. Prices tend to be more stable, and you can afford to watch for a bit. But even then, I wouldn't push it past 60 days. Here's another factor people forget: your departure airport. If you're flying from a West Coast hub with lots of competition, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, Seattle, even Portland, you'll typically see better prices earlier and more often. Multiple airlines are fighting for your business. But if you're coming from the East Coast or somewhere with fewer direct options, those flights need more lead time. You might be connecting through a West Coast hub or flying one of the less frequent direct routes, and either way, your scheduling options are tighter. Book earlier to lock in the flights that work for your dates. The day you matter flies too. This is small potato savings compared to a booking window, but it adds up. Tuesday and Wednesday departures tend to be cheapest, followed by Monday. Thursday through Sunday, those are peak demand days, especially Sunday. If you can be flexible by even a day, you might save a couple $100s per person. Here's what I actually recommend. About 3 months before your trip, start checking prices daily. Use Google Flights or your favorite booking tool. Set up price alerts if you can. You're not just watching for the lowest price, you're learning what normal looks like for your dates. Then when a fare appears that's within, say, 10% of the lowest you've seen, grab it. Don't wait for perfection, because perfection might be $30 less per ticket, but show up the day after everything else is booked. And honestly, if you see a genuinely good price at 4 months out, even 5 months, I'd book it. The stress you'll save yourself is worth more than potentially saving another $50. Plus, you lock in your dates, which means you can book your accommodations without worrying about whether you'll even be able to fly those days. One thing I wouldn't recommend: booking insanely far out, like 11 months, unless you're locked into specific dates for a wedding or major event. Airlines haven't released their full inventory that early, and those super early prices are rarely the best prices. They're gambling on people who can't wait. The sweet spot really is that 2 to 3 month window for most situations. Now, should you book one-way tickets or round trip? Almost always round trip. Airlines price them better. The only time I consider one-way is if you're island hopping with complicated routing, or if you're using points and miles, where sometimes one-way awards make more sense. What about connections? Direct flights cost more, obviously. Connections can save you maybe 25% according to some data. But ask yourself, is that worth the risk of delays, missed connections, lost bags? For Hawaii vacation where you've got limited time on the ground, I usually say pay for the direct if you can swing it. Your vacation starts when you land in Hawaii, not when you finally collect your bag after a 12-hour travel day. One last thing, and this trips people up. Don't forget to factor in the total cost. A flight that's $100 cheaper but arrives at 11 p.m. means you're paying for an extra hotel night and getting less vacation time. A flight that's cheaper but requires checking bags when the other airlines include bags? Do the math on the real price. So here's a practical takeaway. If you're booking summer travel, start looking around March or April. Spring break travel, start looking after New Year's. Holiday travel to Hawaii, start looking in August or September. Give yourself that 60 to 90-day window for peak times and you'll be in good shape. And if all this feels overwhelming, figuring out the right dates, the right airports, whether you should connect or go direct, that's exactly the kind of thing we work through in consultations. Because sometimes the flight decision isn't just about finding the lowest price, it's about building a trip structure that actually works for how you travel. But hopefully this gives you a framework for where to start. The bottom line, don't wait for magic and don't book insanely early. That 2 to 3 month window is your friend for most trips, earlier for peak season. Watch prices for a couple of weeks and then pull the trigger when you see something reasonable. All right, that's it for today's mini episode. Wednesday, I'll be back with a full episode on finding cheap flights to Hawaii, where we'll talk about all the other strategies, which days to fly, which airlines to watch, how to use points, etc. Good luck with your booking.